All right, we got about 5 minutes getting everything set up and all of that good stuff. All right, we're almost ready to start. We hope everybody's having a good evening. It is quite cool today, but it's okay. We needed the rain and we needed to get rid of the hot, just don't need it to stay this cold. It actually feels good outside. It was a little cool this morning, but it feels really good outside. Trying to make sure that I am, hey Sheila, make sure that I am ready. All righty, good evening, good evening. We got some other people that are gonna join in here shortly, I'm assuming, Sister Thompson and some others. If not, oh well, we'll do good. But good evening. This evening's presentation is on the academic side of the athletic recruiting process. Have quite a bit of information here tonight. If you have any questions, once again, type them in the box and I'll get to them when we get to the Q&A section of everything. So without further ado, here we go. Let's share screen. And if anything, always we'll pick up where we left off and from there. Anything happens to the screen, I'm unstable. So if anything happens, you know, it'll come back on and we'll go from there. Uh-oh, what did I do? Hold on, you guys. All right, there we go. The athletic recruiting process, NCAA D1 through D3 and NAIA D1 and D2. Once again, as always, I have to introduce myself. I am Dr. Bridget King. I just break everything down into different sections now so it didn't look so jumbled anymore. So personally, I am a 34-year resident of Duncanville, Texas, and I've lived in the 800 Link community for the last 18 years. I am a wife and I am a mother. Educationally, I'm a graduate of Duncanville High School and I have an associate's degree in liberal arts from El Centro College, downtown Dallas, a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Texas of the Permian Basin, which is out in West Texas, and then a master's degree in organizational management organizational management. My apologies, hold on just a second. I have somebody that can't get in. Let me make sure. Sister Thompson saying she can't get in. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what's going on. Hopefully she'll get in. Let's keep going. Hopefully she'll get in because I'm not blocking anybody, but I have a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix, and then I have an education doctorate in sports management from North Central University, and that's going to help out tonight because athletics and I'm a sports coach, so this is my expertise around here. So I highlighted that so you can understand that this is where I thrive. And then serving leadership roles, I have 25 plus years working in corporate America in various industries, 12 years working in higher education, teaching business, management, leadership, human resources, social sciences, humanities, motivation and purposes. 12 years grassroots girls basketball. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get Sister Thompson in here. 12-year grassroots girls basketball coach for the Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. I have 12 volunteer for Duncanville ISD, and I've served as both president and vice president of PTA for Bill Hart's Elementary here in Duncanville. I've served in various roles for various sports leagues in the area, and I am currently a volunteer deputy registrar for the Dallas County Elections Department. And every week, this will be the same, but we're still going to cover it. What TI Communities pillars does this presentation focus on? Education would always be one, and then the next one is community building. They both work off each other, improve on education, and it improves the community. Who does this presentation benefit? This presentation benefits any junior high and high school athletes looking to play collegiate level sports for either the NCAA or the NAIA, as well as their parents. That is a tongue twister this evening. And then playing high school sports, as well as playing in showcase tourneys and leagues, is part of recruiting, part of it, which is recruiting. But this presentation covers only the academic side of collegiate athletic recruiting. There's a lot that goes into the athletic side that we just do not have time to get into. And there are some things that I will cover, you know, on both sides as I go through the slides, but this is basically covering the academic side of recruiting. Sister Thompson is having an interesting time trying to get in here. I apologize, I'm trying to get her in here. So the history of collegiate sports recruiting. Student athlete recruiting started in the 1880s as sports was transformed from a fun leisure activity to a highly profitable and commercialized sport. In the beginning, compensation for collegiate athletes, my apologies, usually meant assistance with employment, gifts, favors. Once again, Sister Thompson can't get in here. With employment, gifts, favors, and usually free room and board at the home of a coach or a team's supporter. Primarily funded by schools, alumni, and fraternities, incentives were offered to entice players to choose a specific school and to constantly improve on their performance. In 1906, sports scholarships became more widespread, and the intercollegiate states, which is the IAA-US, was established. In 1910, the IAA-US officially changed its name to the National Collegiate Athletic Association, in other words, NCAA. And in 1952, the NCAA legalized their use of athletic scholarships for the purpose of attracting qualified student athletes to their sports programs. The International Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, or NAIA. The NAIA started in 1937 by James Naismith, which everybody knows is the father of basketball, and other local leaders in Kansas City, Missouri. In 1940, the National Association of Intercollegiate Basketball, or the NAIB, was formed. And in 1952, the NAIB was officially renamed the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, or the NAIA. The NAIA is a governing body of small athletics programs that are dedicated to character-driven intercollegiate athletics. The NAIA, they are completely different in that aspect. I mean, no harm against the NCAA, but the NAIA is really big on their athletes taking character development and character-driven courses, and that's just, I'm not going to say that's not what the NCAA is doing, but that is there. When they more big difference between them and the NCAA is that they are dedicated to creating character-driven intercollegiate athletes. And then one of the important facts is that the NAIA was the first collegiate athletics association to invite historically Black institutions, or HBCUs, into membership, and the first to sponsor both men's and women's national championships. The NAIA divisions of play. The NAIA is a smaller association than the NCAA, and they just have 250 member campuses and over 77,000 student athletes. The NAIA includes two divisions, Division 1 and 2. Not all sports have all divisions. Basketball, for instance, they had a D1 and D2, but they decided back in 2018 to combine all of their basketball programs, both men and women, into Division 1. So different sports are classified as D1 and D2. Not all campuses have both the D1 and D2 because some sports may be D2 and some sports may be D1, kind of like with the NCAA. And so it includes two divisions, Division 1 and 2, with NAIA Division 1 being comparable to NCAA Division 2. And we'll talk about that just in this next bullet point. The NAIA is focused on academics more than athletics, and their concern is cost efficiency. And that is the reason why the NCAA, they'll compare to Division 1. And anybody know anything about NCAA Division 1, they are athletically driven. So NAIA Division 1 is comparable to the NCAA Division 2. How does the recruiting process start for the NAIA? You're registered with the Play NAIA Clearinghouse, which is the official clearinghouse for NAIA eligibility. The cost for that is $80 for high school students, $125 for those already in college looking to transfer, and then $135 for international students. And the website would be play.mynaia.org/recruiters. You can write that down if you need to. But there are no rules as to when coaches and players can communicate with each other, and there is no recruiting calendar. That's one of the other big differences between the two with the NCAA and NAIA. Students are permitted 2 days of tryouts at any member school, and they can participate in, or they can participate in the NAIA showcase in hopes of receiving an offer. Unlike the NCAA, the NAIA does a huge showcase every year, and they may do more than one, it just depends. But potential, or future athletes can sign up and come to these, like it might be a basketball tournament, or a football tournament or soccer tournament or something like that, but in one place. And so players can come in and they can participate and show their stuff, and all the NAIA coaches are there, like one big huge recruiting event, and they can, in hopes of receiving an offer if they don't want to travel to the individual schools that they're looking at and do the 2-day tryouts. It says the NAIA also does not have a letter of intent program in which students sign a binding agreement to participate in athletics at a particular institution. The NCAA does, and we'll talk about that when we get to the NCAA side of things. You must be admitted to the college or university under admission standards equal to or higher than those applied to the general student. So basically, NAIA is saying that they're going to hold their student athletes to a higher standard than just the regular students that are coming in for academics. And so your grades and everything are either going to be equal to, if not better than, their regular just students that are there to attend college, if you plan on going there and playing ball for them, any type of sport. In the NAIA, a student athlete can compete during 4 seasons of competition within the first 10 semesters or equivalent in college, which means they're given 4 years or 10 semesters, 4 years, 4 seasons to compete. Next, we have the National Collegiate Athletic Commissioner, the NCAA. Give me just a second, you guys. I'm trying to get Sister Thompson in here. For whatever reason, it's telling her that she can't join, and I'm not sure what's going on. We'll just have to keep going. Hopefully she'll get in here. So the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or the NCAA. In 1906, this is to reiterate back from the beginning, in 1906, sports scholarships became more widespread, and an Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the United States was established, which is the IAAUS. In 1910, the IAAUS officially changed its name to the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or the NCAA. In 1952, the NCAA legalized their use of athletic scholarships for the purpose of attracting qualified student athletes to their sports programs. Now, the thing with 1952 is, remember, in 1952 is also when the NAIA became who they are. So they are both competing for the same athletes. So now the NCAA is legalizing, because remember, prior to 1952, booster incentives and all of that stuff was being paid to athletes to get them to the schools, which now is illegal. So in 1952, the NCAA had to legalize their recruiting efforts to get their athletic scholarships going for the purpose of attracting those students away from the NAIA. And then in 1973, the NCAA split its membership into 3 distinct divisions: Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. And under one in Division II schools can offer scholarships to athletes for playing a recognized sport. Division III schools, however, cannot offer any athletic scholarships. The general rule is that larger schools compete in Division I, and the smaller schools are usually in Division II and Division III. The NCAA divisions of play are NCAA Division I contains 350 member campuses. The average campus undergraduate enrollment is 8,960 students. Every 3 students on campus is an athlete. 51% of D1 student athletes receive some level of athletics aid. The priority is athletics over academics. And then their 2012 graduation success rate was 81%. NCAA Division II contains 310 campuses. The average campus undergraduate enrollment is 2,428 students, where 1 in every 10 students is an athlete. 60% of D2 students receive athletics aid of some level. There's a priority mixture of both athletics and academics. And then their 2012 graduation success rate is 89%. NCAA Division III, which is their largest division, has 538 member campuses. Their average campus undergraduate enrollment is 1,000 students, where 1 in every 6 students is an athlete. And then 80% of D3 student athletes receive some form of non-athletics aid, which is basically in the form of academic scholarships and grants and loans and things. And D3's priority is academics over athletics. And only D1 and D2 actually participate in the graduation success rate program. So D3 doesn't, so there is no percentage information available for D3 schools. Remember Kansas. Goodness. My apologies, Sister Thompson is, but I'm just letting her know, don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out if you can't get in. If you're trying to get in and can, I don't know what's going on with people, because we have people in here. So it's going good. And there's no issues. I'm not sure why it's not letting her in. And so NCAA divisions are differentiated based on the number of sports offered and the goals of the student athletes. NCAA Division I campuses must have at least 7 sports for both men and women, with at least 2 team sports for each gender, and the goals of these student athletes are to become professional players. They must meet minimum financial aid requirements for their student. D1 programs must meet minimum financial aid requirements for their student athletes, with many receiving 100% aid through athletic scholarships. However, it is important that you understand that do not believe just because a student athlete goes D1 that they will all receive a full ride, which means everything is covered. Full ride scholarships are normally for the team's superstars. It is best to ask plenty of questions to know what the scholarship will cover for your child if they are being recruited by the coaches. It's the perception is everybody that goes D1 gets 100% full ride. That is not true. Full ride is an umbrella. So you need to, when somebody is talking full ride, a coach or a recruiter is talking full ride, you need to question what full ride means for that university, because it's different for every university. NCAA Division II campuses must have at least 5 sports for both men and women, with at least 2 teams for each gender. They must meet financial aid requirements as well, but many students receive additional aid through employment, scholarship funds, grants, and loans. They do a mixture of both athletic and academic scholarships. And then for Division III campuses, they must have at least 5 varsity level sports for both men and women, with at least 2 teams for each gender, and there is no financial aid offered. Basically, there are no athletic scholarships given. They only do academic scholarships. NCAA division specific guidelines, because they are different depending on which division you're trying to go, D1, D2, or D3. But overall, here are the 4 things. The general overview is what happens when you're in high school and when you're trying to get yourself recruited by an NCAA program. So the freshman year, the athletes will meet with their counselor to express their desire to play collegiate sports and learn what core courses that they must complete within 4 years. A lot of times what happens there is that it's up to the coaches to get the counselor. You know, they'll wait until like athletics period or practice or whatever, and they'll bring a school counselor in and they will discuss with the players what needs to be done all 4 years of school. They'll show you, you know, where you are right now versus what you're trying to do, you know, compared to what you're trying to do to meet your core course requirement. They'll do that their freshman or sophomore year. So the sophomore year, students will register, or athletes will register for a certification account at the NCAA Eligibility Center website. That is a tongue twister for me tonight. But you can also do that the freshman year, because now with recruiting starting to happen in the 7th grade, you know, waiting until your sophomore year, you know, there are a lot of things that can't be done and get out of the way. So you don't necessarily have to wait until the sophomore year to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center, but you definitely have to have it done by the sophomore, you know, by their sophomore year. Then the junior year, you would meet with your high school counselor again to ensure that the student is on course to graduate on time and with all required core courses taken. And once again, that happens with the coaches. They'll get the counselor, you know, get all the paperwork for the students, for the athletes that are on the teams. And, you know, they'll find out where they are versus where they need to be, or if they are above where they need to be. Some, you know, will meet all of their requirements and then some. And then have the high school counselor upload a copy of the official transcript to the NCAA Eligibility Center. This will happen after the spring semester is over, like right at the beginning of the summer. You need to request that your high school counselor logs into the counselor's side of the Eligibility Center and uploads yours or your child's transcript up through the end of their junior year, which would be their freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then the senior year, there needs to be any remaining courses, core courses completed. And we'll find out what the core courses are next. And then complete the amateurism and academic questionnaire in the NCAA's Eligibility Center account. We would discuss both of those as well in just a second. Then you must graduate high school. You cannot play collegiate sports without graduating high school and a GED without help. And after counselor, upload the final high school transcript to the NCAA Eligibility Center. You have to make that request after you graduate, and we'll get to that as well. So the NCAA division-specific academic guidelines are: for Division I requirements, you will complete 16 core courses consisting of 3 years of math at the Algebra 1 level or above, natural or physical science for 2 years, 4 years of English, and then an additional philosophy or natural or physical science or social science or foreign language courses, 4 years of that. So if you take, you know, you can take, you know, biology, chemistry, physics, chemistry 2, foreign language, as long as you have 4 years of those. And then you have to have 2 years of a social science. So that's going to be your U.S. histories, you know, those type of courses. And then 1 additional year of English, math, or natural science. And then 10 courses must be completed prior to the start of the 7th semester, which is the 7th semester is the fall semester of your senior year or the student's senior year. 7 of the courses must be English, math, or natural science. And then earn a minimum GPA of 2.3 in those core courses. So it doesn't matter how many electives you take. Those core courses of math, science, and social science, and those, you have to have a minimum GPA of 2.3, or you get shirt at a 2.0. So if you don't have a 2.3, but you meet all the other requirements for D1, you will become an academic red shirt for the freshman year, or your child will, and then they're given that whole year to work on their GPA and get it up to where they need to be able to practice and compete at the college level. And then you must graduate high school. Once again, you must graduate, or the student must graduate high school. And so at the bottom, we're talking about academic red shirts. A college-bound student athlete, i.e. incoming freshman, may receive an athletic scholarship in their first year of enrollment, may practice in the first regular academic term or semester quarter, but they may not compete in the first year of enrollment. Still results in 4 years of eligibility. You still get 4 years of results of eligibility. There's a typo there, my apologies. So for some, being an academic red shirt actually is a good thing, because they can still practice and everything. They just can't play. and it still gives them 4 years of eligibility. So they're going through, you know, they may not pay their freshman year, but they'll play their sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then if they're going to grad school, the first year of their grad school, if they academic redshirt. So the advantage is they get a full year to enhance their skill set before competing collegiately. Once again, everything is about athletics at the D1 level and partially at the D2. But with academic redshirts, it's also about getting the academics and getting the GPA where it needs to be. Let me scoot down. I'm having to move some things around on my screen. Uh-oh. My apologies. I moved my thing and paused the recording. I stopped sharing the screen. That's what I did, not paused it. All right, Division II requirements. Must complete 16 core courses consisting of 3 years math, algebra 1 or above, 2 years of natural and physical science, 4 years of English, and then another 4 years of philosophy, natural, physical science, social science, or foreign language, and then 2 years of social science, just like D1. There must be 1 additional year of English, math, or natural physical science, just like D1. There must be 10 courses must be completed prior to the start of the 7th semester, which is the fall semester. And 7 courses must be in English, math, and or natural physical science. But with D2, you have to have a minimum GPA of 2.2 or become an academic redshirt with a 2.0. And then you must graduate high school. For D3, member institutions set their own eligibility standards. And for a lot of them, they're going to go with what D1 is doing. And so if you're, you know, if you meet everything, all of these standards for Division I requirements, you're pretty much going to be eligible to play at the D3 level. And then a student will register for a profile account at the NCAA Eligibility Center. On Division I and Division II, they would do what's called a regular account. But for Division III, you don't need a regular account for Division III because there technically is no recruiting. There are no athletic scholarships. So you're only going to do a profile account for those coaches to go in and see what, you know, what you're about academically and everything. Institution for eligibility requirements, and they must graduate high school as well. So basically for D1, the coaches will come after you. For D3, you got to go after the coaches. Now, there are some coaches that will, you know, D3 will still go to the tournaments and all that good stuff. But for a lot of them, they just don't have that in the budget. So if there's a school you're looking at and it's D3, you might want to contact them first and let them know, hey, I want to come play for you. You know, and so the guidelines, if you are not in high school and you are a homeschool student, you still must register, or your child still must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. You must pay the NCAA Eligibility Center registration fee. And we'll get to that in a second. And then submit an official transcript for any high school attended, if applicable. Submit proof of high school graduation with a specified graduation date. Submit a signed statement of who operated the homeschool program, along with who evaluated the program, who taught the courses, and who graded the assignments. Submit a statement that the homeschool operated within applicable state laws. Submit core course worksheets for English, math, social science, foreign language, natural or physical science, comparative religion, or philosophy classes. Oh, I was thinking there was another bullet. So these are all the things that if your child or you did not go to a traditional high school, be it public or private, and you are homeschooled or they are homeschooled, these are the additional requirements that must be met for homeschool students. Then for non-traditional students, these are students that, you know, they're taking or attending high school online, which is different from what's going on right now. These kids are actually still in public school. Circumstances are why they're virtual, but non-traditional students are students whose entire high school years have been spent virtually or something like that. There are a number of students who complete their high school education via non-traditional means, meaning that they take courses virtually and not in a brick and mortar classroom. Over the years, online coursework was not reliable and it was unregulated. However, with the creation of so many certified online high school programs, the NCAA had to acknowledge their existence and comprised guidelines for those students, and those guidelines are: they must first determine if the NCAA has a list of core courses for the non-traditional program, and that information can be found on the NCAA website. There is a whole webpage designed for this, and you'll just go to the eligibility guidelines, and there's like a right side menu that has the different, it'll say NCAA guidelines for non-traditional students, and you'll find this information. It'll show you where to go to find that list of core courses. And it says the courses must meet the NCAA course requirements, and then the same academic requirements for Division I and Division II member institutions must apply. And the student or you must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. And then for national athletes, they also have to meet NCAA requirements, and those are they must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center as soon as possible. They have to submit academic records from year 9 and up in the student's native language, and then they also have to have those records translated to English. And then they must submit proof of graduation along with a copy of that graduation diploma or certificate and any final leaving examinations. So before they come over here from their home country to go to school, they have to also submit this information. Then next up, the recruiting process and amateurism. This is where we get into the meat of everything. So the 4 NCAA official recruiting steps that each high school athlete will go through, and those steps are: the first one is contact. That means a contact occurs when the collegiate coach or recruiter introduces themselves to the athlete and or their parents at an event that occurs off campus. Second step is the evaluation. The athlete is evaluated when the collegiate coach or recruiter attends a practice session, game, or camp to watch the player. So your contacts are probably going to be made at like a tournament, or an EYBL event. Those where the contacts come in. And then that coach will say, hey, I've seen them at this tournament. Now I want to go see them at a practice, and it could be school practice or club practice. So the coach is now saying, that recruiter is now saying, hey, I want to go see what they actually do in practice. They want as far as a player. So after that, and then they're going to talk to you and talk to your parents and all of that, and you'll make a verbal commitment. And that means the athlete voices their desire to play for a specific collegiate program of choice, but the commitment is non-binding at this point. A lot of verbal commitments you will see on social media now. I've committed to play for the University of Texas at Dallas, or I've committed to play for the University of Cincinnati. Those are just verbal commitments, but they are not binding at this point. And then the 4th stage is the official commitment. And for the NCAA, the official commitment is when the athlete signs a national letter of intent, officially committing to play for a Division I or Division II program. Remember, there are no athletic scholarships for Division III, so there's no letter of intent for Division III. At this point, there can be no more recruiting tactics carried out by other collegiate programs. So what happens is, once an athlete has officially committed somewhere, whether they're a high-profile athlete where they're going to announce that commitment, once they announce that commitment, no other coaches or recruiters can help, can come after them. But even if they're not high-profile athletes, if a recruiter or a college coach starts, wants to try to recruit them, it's up to that player and their parents to say, hey, we've already signed a letter of intent to play over here, so thank you, but no thank you. And then a lot of times, an athlete will sign a letter of intent and then they'll back out and then open up their recruiting efforts again. Things happen that way. Step of eligibility is registering with the NCAA Eligibility Center. And here's the link for that website. I'll show it again after the presentation if anybody needs to see it. Hey, Sister Thompson, you finally got in. Awesome. So for those wishing to go to Division I or Division II, they have to register to create a regular account. Creating an account is just create a regular account. It is $90 for U.S. citizens, including its territories as well as Canada. And then for players from other countries, it's $150. And then for those students that, remember last week we talked about being on the free and reduced lunch, are receiving some type of state, benefits, not necessarily welfare, but state benefits. If that high school athlete is receiving any of that, they can get a fee waiver from the NCAA to waive those fees. And then for those wishing to go to Division III, they will register for a free profile, which is just to create a profile. So you go to the NCAA website, one thing says create an account, one says create a profile. For D1 and D, those wishing to go D1 and D2, they're going to click the create an account. That's the one where you have to pay. For those going going D3, or if your child or you are not sure whether you're going to go D1 or D2, no one's recruiting you as of yet, you're not getting any type of correspondence from coaches, create a profile. Because what'll happen is if you just create a recruiting letter, you can switch that profile, that free profile account over to a paid account. And, you know, things are fine that way. So if you're not sure what's going to happen, whether you're going to get recruited D1 or D2 or D3, just create a free account. And then if you start getting recruited, you know, switch it over to the paid account. Potential students can also create a profile until they make a decision and convert their profile account to a regular account at a later date. That's what I was just talking about. And so once you start the recruiting, there are now recruiting calendar regulations. And this is where the whole legalized thing in 1952 started with the NCAA. Every high school sport that can transition to the collegiate level of play has an NCAA recruiting calendar period. This recruiting period allows for fairness in that it only allows for the recruitment of certain sports, certain times of the year. The regulations for the recruiting calendar are as follows, and there are 3 periods. You have a contact period. Remember, stage 1 of recruiting. That's where a collegiate coach or recruiter may have face-to-face contact with high school athletes and or their parents, watch the athletes compete, visit their high schools, and write or telephone the athletes or their parents. For every sport, they're different. You know, these dates are different. That's why I don't have specific dates on here. Every sport has their contact period. And that is the only time that coaches are allowed to contact and or their parents. And then there's an evaluation period. And that's where a collegiate coach or recruiter may watch high school athletes compete, visit their high schools, and write or telephone the athletes or their parents. However, the coach may not have off-campus face-to-face contact with the athletes or their parents during this evaluation period. So, hey, Makia. So it's different from the contact period where they can have, you know, contact period is open, hey, free willy-nilly, contact the parents, contact the players. The evaluation period, there is no off-campus. So the evaluation period, that's where you're normally going to have your campus recruiting, you know, visits, stuff like that. And so then you have the quiet and the dead periods, and they're kind of pretty much the same. There's just a little distinguishes between the two. But during these periods, that's when a college coach or recruiter may not correspond in any way, shape, form, or fashion with high school at any other means other than writing a telephone. And for some coaches, they actually go the extra mile. They don't contact students at all. Now, granted, this is what the coaches can and cannot do. But at any given point in time, a high school athlete can contact coaches at any time. They can call, they can email, they can text, they can talk to them, you know, they can send messages on social media. These are just the times that the coaches respond or cannot respond. Let's make that clear. Potential collegiate athletes can contact the coach at any given point in time, every day of the year if they choose. These are the periods that the coaches can respond back to that, or the coaches can make that first initial contact. So contact period, evaluation period, quiet and dead periods. And even with D3, even though they don't give athletic scholarships, they still recruit because they can have a hand in academic scholarships. So a lot of times D3 coaches will follow what the D1 coaches are doing just so they stay in compliance with their own rules. Every division has their own compliance rules. And that's a whole nother presentation within itself that unless you want to be a coach, you probably don't want to know about. But D3 coaches, just for for this presentation, D3 coaches are normally going to follow what the D1 coaches are doing for compliance reasons. And now we have the NCAA amateurism certification. This is now the student has been to the camps, or the coaches, to the tournaments, or the coaches have come to the high school to see them play, talk to the coaches, talk to the parents. They made a verbal commitment. They've signed their NLI, and now they're to amateurism. And amateurism is where, and it says, in addition to satisfying academic requirements by the NCAA, because it doesn't matter where you go to play, you still have to get admitted based on your academics. High school athletes must also certify that they hold amateurs as defined by the NCAA, and being an amateur athlete means that the high school athlete does not have representation by a sports agent. They do not play in any organized game or practice with a professional team, or did not while in high school, or before they enrolled into college, or accepted any money or benefits of any kind for playing in an organized competition. Now, USA basketball, let's talk about basketball. USA basketball or any of the USA sports, USA soccer, USA volleyball, USA basketball, USA football, they are different when they say are playing with any professional team, because those are technically not professional teams. What happens is when you play for any USA sponsor, which means Congress is sponsoring that team, as a high school student, you can, or the student can play for those programs, but they cannot receive the pay comes with it. So those players, like professional players and all of them that play with USA basketball or USA soccer or, you know, FIFA or whatever, they actually do get a check for doing that. But high school players can't. And if you remember, like a couple of years ago, what's her name? Maori Davenport, that she came out of Arkansas and played with USA basketball, winning, won a gold medal. But what happened was USA basketball sent everybody on the team a check, and Maori's parents never deposited the check, but in good faith, they sent the check back to USA basketball. However, in order to make sure that she didn't lose her high school eligibility, they did the right thing and reported it to the state of Arkansas's High School Association. Well, them thinking they did the right thing got their daughter banned from her senior year. She basically missed the whole entire senior year. It took, because she was recruited by C. Vivian Stringer at Rutgers. It took C. Vivian Stringer calling and USA basketball calling the Arkansas High School Association to make them reinstate her and let her play her senior year. But she missed about 90% of her senior year while they went to court date after court date, hearing after hearing, because the Arkansas High School Sports Association was not going to let her play. It took so much to get that young lady in red. She got to play her last high school basketball game. She missed 99% of her best high school basketball season. So I say that to say that, you know, that's the clarification there. Playing with the USA sponsor teams, high school players can. It doesn't, you know, as long as it's a USA sponsor team and they're asked to come play and try out and get chosen, they can play. They just cannot receive the paycheck that comes with it. And so next thing is, during the process of registering with the NCAA Eligibility Center, amateurism is determined by asking an athlete a series of questions. That's where that athletic questionnaire came in a few slides back. So according to the NCAA, about 90% of athletes automatically certified during their registration procedures. So, and that's saying 90% of the kids, you know, they weren't asked to play for any USA sponsored team or something like that. You know, they have teams, you know, you now have USA sponsored youth high school teams, you know, especially for basketball. You know, they go to Florida and play in the USA versus the world tournament. I forget, something like that, I think it's called. And so they, you know, when you start playing in those type of tournaments, that's where that other 10% comes in that are not automatically certified. They now have to prove that they did not accept any money or any incentives of any kind, or nobody paid for their trip other than their parents to get them there, and those type of things. And then high school other amateurism certification before April 1st of their senior year, if attempting to enroll the following fall semester, or by October 1st, if attempting to enroll in the winter or spring semester. So for those students that are trying to go that summer or trying to enroll that fall, before April 1st of their senior year, they can go into the NCAA Eligibility Center, and there's a page on there, the amateurism page. They will click that page and request their amateurism certification. And then on the back end, the NCAA Eligibility Center people will do some things, and then the amateurism questionnaire will pop up, and the student will, or you will answer the questions. And then if there are any issues like that, become that 10% that don't automatically certify, then the NCAA Eligibility Center will contact that student and, you know, ask a series of questions, and they'll go from there. But for those players, and this really applies to a lot of football, they will graduate after the winter break. You know, they're done after the winter break of their senior year, and they will enroll into the school that they will be playing ball for that following fall, that in January for the spring semester. So a lot of them will request their amateurism certification by October 1st of their senior year. And then you have some basketball players that do that as well. But a lot of football players, they will already satisfy their NCAA requirements by the fall of their senior year. And so they'll go ahead and enroll in January when the spring semester starts for college and go from there. And so now we get to the NLI. What is the National Letter of Intent program? And this is different. Like I said, the NAIA does not subscribe to this, but the NCAA does because it's their program. So it says the NCAA manages the daily operations of the NLI program. The NLI started in 1964 with 7 conferences and 8 independent institutions. The program now includes 657 Division I and Division II participating institutions. The NLI is a voluntary program with regard to both the institutions and the athletes. So the NCAA member institutions are not required to issue a NLI to the student, but if that student chooses, then both the school, like at the school doesn't have to do the NLI program, but if they choose to do it, and then the student chooses to do it, now it becomes a binding document. And so that's where we're going from here. It says no prospective student, athlete, or parent is required to sign the NLI, and no institution is required to join the program. However, next bullet point, for those who do, both the parent and the institution, the NLI is a binding agreement between a prospective student, athlete, and the NLI member institution. Prospective student athlete, they will agree to attend the institution full-time for 1 academic year, 2 semesters and 3 quarters. The institution agrees to provide athletics financial aid, which means the athletic scholarship for 1 academic year. So that means your academic, that's something else that a lot of people need to understand too. Your athletic scholarships are year to year to year. You don't just get that and it's full ride for all 4 years, because anything can happen. Break a leg, blow out a knee. So athletic scholarships you earn every year. And most of the time is based on performance in a game or in practice and things like that. So the prospective student, when they sign their NLI, they're agreeing to attend that university or college for their freshman year. That first full-time 1 academic year, that's their freshman year. And so, and then the institution, the D1 school or D2 school on their side then agrees to provide scholarship for that freshman year. That's that part. And so then the penalty for the student for not fulfilling their NLI agreement. So say your child signs their national letter of intent and then goes, well, no, I'm not going there, I'm going somewhere else. That student then has to serve a 1 year in suspension residence, which means that if they leave the school, they didn't come out of their recruitment, which means they didn't denounce their recruitment. A lot of times kids, will commit somewhere in the 7th grade, and then by their senior year, oh, I don't want to go there now, but you can't sign an NLI to your senior year anyway. So nothing that a student does or an athlete does from the 7th grade to 11th grade, all they can do is verbally commit. That is all you can do from the 7th grade to your junior year. And NLI is not signed until the senior year. So when they sign that NLI, they are now saying, I'm going to come to your school for this year and I'm going to allow you guys to pay for it. But if you sign that NLI and then at the last minute say, well, hey, LSU over here is now recruiting me and I choose to go there even though I've signed this NLI to play for you, you transfer to LSU, you now have to serve a 1 year in residence, basically suspension. You can't play for LSU for that year. You can transfer to LSU, but you cannot play for LSU because that's the suspension for the penalty for not fulfilling your portion of the NLI. Now, is there a portion of the NLI that the member institution has? Do they have a penalty? A lot of times for an NLI member institution to rescind their part of the NLI, that child had to have done something crazy, because they're not going to, it's a legally binding agreement. So they're going to hold up their end, but most often what happens is that the player ends up doing something and gets penalized. And then it's an important provision of the NLI program to know that it is a recruiting prohibition applied after a prospective student athlete signs the NLI. This prohibition requires member institutions to cease recruitment of a prospective student athlete once an NLI is signed with another institution. Same thing, the official commitment. The official commitment and the NLI go hand in hand. Once that child signs that NLI, all other schools have to back up. they have to. And if it's proven that they're trying to still recruit that child while they sign their NLI, or after they've signed their NLI, then the NCAA will take that, that's in-house. They'll handle that on their end. So the National Letter of Intent signing dates for prospective student athletes and those enrolling, and these are seniors. So this will be this year's seniors and those enrolling in college the fall of the 2021 into 2020, spring of 2022. So for D1 basketball early period, they can sign as early as November 11th, which is the initial signing date. And these are days. It's not saying you can go from a November 11th to November 18th. The initial signing date is November 11th. So if they don't sign on November 11th, 2020, then they have to wait till November 18th, 2020. And I mean, you can, well, I'm not going to say you can't sign in between there, but a lot of times what ends up happening is that with the signing periods, that's a huge event. So it's kind of one of those, if you don't do it on this day, you got to do it on this day. Division I basketball regular period, and this is normally your average athlete, their first day, because the initial day and the final day. So yeah, it's a time frame. Let's just say it is basically a week. And that's for early. Those are ones that have already gotten accepted and things like that. But for the regular period, these are the athletes that, for whatever reason, didn't apply early and all of that, and they're going to sign the regular period. The first day is April 14, 2021. The last day is May 19, 2021. Once again, huge events. The coaches come, the parents come, tables are set up. If you have several students signing at one time, a lot of times the schools will wait, the kids will wait till the spring because they want to sign with their friends, and you will have, the gym or the football field or whatever, the cafeteria or the auditorium. I'm like, what is that called? They'll have a huge event where everybody is sitting at their own decorated table and they all sign their letter of intents national letter of intents at one time. So a lot of times they'll wait till the regular period and sign with their friends. And then for football is December 16th through December 18th. Football is its own beast. There's a whole lot that goes with football. We're just not going to get into that. But Division I and Division II football, and it's basically mid-year JUCO transfers. They're going to go from December 16th to January 15th, 2021. And then Division I and II regular period is going to be February 3rd. And that's where, as I said, is even though you have an initial and a final signing date, it may be that whole 7 days or whatever, 2 or 3 weeks, but sometimes it's just one day and then there's another day. And that's kind of what's going on here with Division I and II football. The initial day is February 3rd, but a lot of times you won't see a player sign until April 1st. And then for Division II, you may not see them sign until August 1st. So the dates are really iffy, especially with football. And then all other Division I and II sports, their initial signing date is November 11th. And then once again, it depends on what's going on. They may sign at any point between there and August 1st, or they may wait till August 1st. It depends on the school, especially if they want the sometimes the coaches will come, sometimes they won't, but it just depends on what's going on with the sport and everything when, the kids decide to do their signing day. But a lot of times it's going to be in the spring because they want to sign with their friends. The only ones that'll sign in the fall, or like I said, some football players that are going to graduate after the fall semester and want to go on to college, they ain't trying to sign with their friends. They're trying to do what they want to do. And most often, they've already signed the spring before that anyway. And then maintaining academic, high school athletes been recruited, signed their NLI, the academic and amateur requirements of the NCAA Eligibility Center, they can now enroll to become a collegiate student athlete. However, once they are in college, all student athletes are required to maintain those eligibility requirements to keep their athletic scholarships. The following are the requirements for maintaining academic eligibility while in college. For D1 institutions, the student must maintain the institution-specified GPA. Every college has their GPA that you have to maintain or get a minimum of that you do not go on academic probation. So for D1 schools, that minimum GPA depends on that school. For D2 schools, the minimum GPA is a 1.9 for the first 2 years, 0.0 for the remaining years. So freshman and sophomore years, they have to have at least a 1.9, and you almost have to not go to class ever to get a 1.9 for your freshman and sophomore year, and then a 2.0 for any years, you know, for NCAA, you can have eligibility into the first year, sometimes second year of graduate school. So after the freshman and sophomore years, junior year through to graduation, they have to maintain a 2.0. Now, we all know that the things that the NCAA has done over the years to get themselves and what schools have done, and we're not going to say the NCAA, we're going to say NCAA member institutions. And there are things that the NCAA themselves have historically done to get themselves in trouble. One being that for years, the NCAA, for lack of a better phrase, did not care if their athletes graduated college, especially at the D1 level. Why? Because they were slated to go pro. So here comes the NAIA Commission of Intercollegiate Athletics that says, hey, pump the brakes on that. Let's talk about this. You know, why can't they graduate college? So the NAIA Commission, let's talk about who they are. The commission was formed by brothers James S. and their foundation in October 1989 to recommend the reform agenda in response to highly visible athletic scandals and low graduation rates for college football and men's basketball players that threaten the integrity of the higher education. Remember, everything is about professionalism. So when you don't have your athletes not graduating college, you know, or they are, you know, getting in trouble for a rape charge or selling drugs or domestic violence, that's not a good look for a school, much less the player, but it's definitely not a look for a school. So now the vision comes in into this, we need to create some guidelines. Let's slow down some of this. So the purpose of the NAIA Commission is to develop, promote, and lead transformational change that prioritizes the health, the education, health, safety, and success of college athletes. By the late 1990s, listen to me, when the NCAA originally, they didn't change their name to 1952, but from 1952 to the late 1990s, the NCAA had enacted a majority of the commission's recommendations to strengthen academic standards and athletics governance. So from 1950 to 95, let's say late 1996, there was no governments or academic standards at all for NCAA athletes. And I'm not going to say that's ridiculous, but come on now. So for what's that? We'll say from 1952 to, let's say 1998. That's 46 years that the NCAA really did not care if people that played, you know, athletes that played at their members' institutions actually graduated high school or had scandals. It was not until the NAIA Commission came along in the late 1990s and put a stop to all of that. So successful changes proposed by the NAIA Commission are requiring teams to be on track to graduate at least 50% of their players to be eligible for the NCAA postseason championships and bowl games. And to be honest, that really just started not too long ago. And what that means is, you remember when I was talking about the graduation success rate of both D1 and D2? What is happening now is that when you're going D1 or D2, you have to be on track. And we'll talk about this. There's some other more slides. You have to have 80%, or that student has to have 80% of their degree plan completed by their junior year, junior, senior year, something like that. But all of the players, say you have a basketball team, at least 50%, you got 10 players on the team, at least 5 of them have to be on track to graduate. And that means they had to have passed. More applies to, you got incoming freshmen, but mostly your sophomores through seniors, because your incoming freshmen, they're just freshmen. They've only been there for one semester. But let's look at that one semester. Say the fall semester. At least half of the team has to pass their fall semester classes, and that's really for football, you know, fall sports, fall winter sports, football, basketball, cross country, volleyball, swimming, those type. So you have a 10-person team, at least 5 of those players have to pass every class that fall semester in order for that team to go into postseason play in January or whenever, March Madness or whenever, because if they don't, they can't play. It does not matter what their record is. It doesn't matter what, you know, who the star players are on the team. If at least half of the players on their team does not pass that fall semester, they will not go into postseason play. That was the NAIA Commission, not the NCAA. And also the next point was reducing athletic college athletes. Once again, D1, athletics first, academics second. D2, 50-50. D3, academics first, athletics second. So it became where, and we all know people that have gone to college and played, were college athletes, and their entire academic schedule, even now, is created around athletics, because they are spending 8, 9, 10 hours, sometimes a day in athletics, and then they are having to spend, they do a lot at the college level with athletics, and that's why D1 is so demanding, and that's mostly why, even though a lot of kids try to go D1, they're not ready for D1 athletics at the collegiate level, because there is a time demand on them that some of them are just not ready for. They're ready for D2 at the most. But the NAIA Commission has also successfully pushed for the NCAA to make improvements to its coaching education programs and establish basic credentialing for coaches to ensure that coaches are prepared for their roles to protect the health, safety, and well-being of college athletes. Once again, these were not enacted, and this was not even starting to be discussed until the late 1990s. So for 46 years, the NCAA didn't care if their students graduated. They didn't care if they had scandals. It is what it is. This is not anything I'm making up. I'm not downgrading or degrading or berating the NCAA. This is the reality of what the NCAA was about. So remember back when I was talking at the beginning of the presentation about the NAIA and producing character-driven athletes, that's their difference, and that is their marketing point that makes them different from the NCAA. They want their athletes to come in and be mature and have character and integrity. NCAA, not so much, let's just be honest. Then additional considerations when determining where to play collegiate sports. And this also goes from last week about how to apply for schools and things you need to consider. So the following are considerations that seriously need to be thought about when making a decision as to where one wants to play college sports. Number one, the location of the campus, just like going to school. Where is this place? How far is this place from home? That's number two. How far is this campus from home? Can family come see you play? Can mom and dad, can your friends just drive to the campus and come see you play? Or is this 5 or 6 hours away where you don't have a support system? Number three, diversity of the city that the campus is located in. Is this a city that's smack dab in the middle of, an area that is not diversity friendly? Or are they? Is this a college town? You want to know what's going on with the city that the campus is in. Family, they're going to the colleges that mom and dad or grandpa and grandpa or whatever went to. So family legacy also plays a part. Next, what are the athletes majoring in? The expectations of what one will major in. Is it your choice? Unfortunately, with D1, because athletic scholarships are paid for by the coaches in the athletic department, a lot of times those athletes are steered into the most simplest degree programs possible. Why? Because their time is being manipulated with athletics. That's why you see a lot of players that major in sports management, or they major in business management, or they're majoring in criminal justice. You're not going to see them in pre-med, pre-law, engineering. Those are your D3 schools. You're not going to see too many athletic scholarships given to a child that's trying to go pre-med. Why? Because pre-med takes away from athletics. So you have to know what you will be able to major in. Can I pick my own major, or am I going to be steered towards a major? Then what's the graduation rate of the athletes? And I don't care if it's D3. You want to know how many athletes are graduating from the team. And a lot of times you will see that, like I said, with the graduation success rate from the NAIA Commission, D1 and D2 programs have to publish. It is required that they publish their graduation rates every year, and you can find that information on the NCAA website. D3 schools, they don't participate in GSR because they're academics first. So they may or may not publish theirs, but D1 and D2, they're required athletes. Then number 7, how many spots are going to be open on the roster for your incoming freshman season and at your position? So when you're researching these schools, and we'll get back, the top 10 schools and all of that, we'll get to that in just a second. But remember when I was saying, pick your top 10 schools, you should do the same thing with athletics if you're trying to go to be a collegiate athlete. And what you want to know is, research, go to the athletic website on that school, that university or college's website, their internet website. Go to the section that covers athletics. Go to the roster, the current roster for the sport that you are playing or your child is playing, and look at the classification. And if your child is a senior this year, how many seniors do they have on the roster? Because if there's only one senior on the roster, you may want to look somewhere else to go, or your child may want to look somewhere else to go, because it depends on what division they are and how many people they are already recruiting along with your child. But if they have a, if it's a team of 15 and 6 or 7 of them are seniors, okay. But if it's a team of 10 and only 2 or 3 are seniors, you may want to, consider some other options there, And then if being offered an athletic scholarship, this goes back to what's being covered. What does that scholarship cover? You can assume it's going to cover tuition. Most often they're going to, but they may not cover books. They may not cover those additional fees. They may not cover room and board. I heard a story of someone who took their daughter to college last fall. She had gotten an athletic scholarship. Dad and mom drove her down there, and they got all the way down there, and she didn't have a dorm to stay in because the athletic department didn't pay for her dorm. All they paid for was her tuition. So they had to figure out how to get her in the dorm, and she had to stay on campus because she was an athlete. So before, when you're doing this and you're talking to the coaches during that contact period, you need to ask these questions. If they're out trying to offer your child, hey, why don't you come here? Or if you go on a evaluation period and you go to an on-campus recruiting event, they've invited you in, they paid for you to come in, you need to ask these questions. If you're offering my child a scholarship, what does that scholarship entail? I need to know everything that's being paid for and what I'm going to be responsible for. If not, you may find an issue when you get there. So you want to know what's being covered and what percentage is being covered. They may not cover 100%. Some schools, they only cover partial scholarships. Even though it's an athletic scholarship, it may only be a partial athletic scholarship. So you want to know what's being covered and what percentage is being covered. And then what will the student, basically their parents, be responsible for covering? Those are questions that have to be asked. Then number 9, and this is the big question for any college, potential college athlete. What if that coach leaves? And that happens all the time. Coaches recruit these kids. Hey, I'm going here, come to this college, come play for me. You're going to start. We're going to pay for everything. 100% full ride scholarship. You sign your NLI, and then you hear on the news that coach has accepted a position at XYZ University, and now they're gone. So the question is, were you going to that school just for that coach and to play for that coach, or were you going to that school also for the academics? So if that coach leaves, will the campus still satisfy your academic needs? Are you still, because remember, you signed an NLI. You still have to go because that's a legally binding document required regardless to who the coach is. You signed a document with the school, with the athletics department, not that coach. You're going because that coach recruited you, or his staff or her staff recruited you, but you're still in a legally binding NLI. So if that coach leaves and you were only going because coach such and such was the coach of that school and they are a high profile coach and now they're gone and I really don't want to go there because I don't know nothing about that school. You have to pick a school as a potential collegiate athlete that if anything happens with that coach, unfortunately, what happens if the coach passes? You have to find a school that at the very bare minimum is going to satisfy your academic needs. So what happens if something happens, you blow out your knee or tear your ACL, tear a hamstring, and now your collegiate career is done? Are you going to stay at that school and finish, or is your child going to stay at that school and finish their degree? So what happens if the coach leaves? And what happens if you try to transfer? And that happens a lot with female athletes, males too, but a lot with female athletes. But the problem with female athletes are there's only but so many schools, there are only but so many high profile women's teams at the collegiate level. So with women, boys can transfer and go anywhere and play. There are thousands of men, boys teams or men's teams. But for girls or women, you got to be careful, and you got to know where you're trying to go and put a lot of research into where you're trying to go for your collegiate, athletic career. Because for women, a lot of times if they try to transfer and don't get picked up by another, school to play athletics, their college career is over. And unfortunately, because their college athletic career is over, their college academic career is over, because they don't have the money to continue to pay for school, and all of their money was wrapped up in that athletic scholarship. So there are things that you have to consider when, when looking at being a potential athlete. Go there for the academics. If you're given a chance to play athletics, then go for it, but go there for the academics. Challenges to the retention rates of student athletes. And this is, I was touching on this further. I got 21 minutes, so let's speed this up. The NCAA requires that all student athletes must complete at least 80% of their degree plans by the end of their junior year of college. For those student athletes who fail to do so, they automatically lose their athletic scholarships and they are dismissed from the campus. I had that conversation a few minutes ago. For many student athletes, the primary reason that there is a reduction in retention rates to graduate college is due to their inability to meet both academic and athletic requirements. For some students, they were never academically prepared to go to their school anyway, and they really shouldn't have been there. They were only there to play, but now in sports, they haven't satisfied 80% of their degree plan. They've lost their academic scholarship, and now they're kicked out on academics as well. And then players declaring for the draft to play their sport of choice professionally in hopes of increasing their socioeconomic status. High-profile athletes are known not to go to attend class at all, as they know that they will be drafted to play. Prime example, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons was recruited to LSU because his godfather was the coach. Ben Simmons didn't go to not one class. Why? Because he knew he was going pro, and it was no reason for him to go to class. They did a whole documentary on it. It's on Showtime if you want to watch it. With athletic schedules requiring in excess of 40 or more hours per week of an athlete's time, students are commonly negotiated into declaring majors for lower level degree programs and scheduling their classes around their athletic schedule. We just spent almost 10 minutes on that. And let's keep it historically honest. And when I'm, like I said, and I try to see everything from all sides. So historically, for minorities, and specifically African Americans, the lack of actually being academically prepared for college is a factor. Historically, African Americans were awarded athletic scholarships to aid in collegiate campus athletic departments, increasing their win-loss records due to the racist ideology of African Americans being more physically dominant than their white student athlete counterparts. Head coaches are allowed to circumvent academic requirements to get high school athletes accepted into their programs. With football and basketball being the main two sports on collegiate campuses, the logic is that African Americans play those sports because they require less mental acuity, while white athletes tend to play sports that require more mental thought to participate and accomplish wins. Historically, that's the truth. Read a whole lot of stories on it. And there was an article that came out yesterday that talked about how white athletes at these colleges are benefiting on the backs of the football and basketball players. I forgot what it's called, but it was posted everywhere online yesterday. You might want to go read it. Things to remember with recruiting and social media. In addition to those, star athletes who were born as part of Generation Z, which is our kids, those born between the years of 1996 and 2010, and now Generation Alpha, which are those born between the years of 2011 to 2025, their experiences with being a student athlete on a collegiate campus not only involves the normalities of being a college student, but also being an athlete whose every move is documented and shared on social media. And every move is documented and shared on social media. And they've been doing that since they've grown up. They grew up in the social, in the age of internet technology. So their entire lives broadcast more than ours or our kids are. So with that being said, everything that you do is being watched by somebody, by someone, and most often will be posted to social media, and especially if you are a high-profile athlete, because they want that drama. They want to know, hey, Zeke Elliott went out and did this, as much as he stayed in trouble at Ohio State. Will get worse once you start, the situation will get worse once you start getting recruited. When your child or you start getting recruited, you need to ease up with the social media posting, and you need to be careful and cognizant about everything that you do, because coaches find any reason to cut a recruit, because a lot of times they'll have more than they can deal with, and they got to get that list down. They may have 20 or 30 on the list, and they need to get it down to 10. 10 or 20 of them, they find in whatever reason, do anything, spit on the pavement, and they are cutting you. So the age of social media and things being broadcast and people's business being broadcast basically extends and gets exponentially worse once a player starts getting recruited. Then once again, create both a professional and personal social media page and keep them different. We've already had a presentation on that. Keep your personal business personal, and whatever else that you want to do out there professionally, do those two things. Don't link the pages. Don't do any of that. Keep your personal life personal and do what you do. And then think before you post. Think before you post. Before you post. Think before you post. Do not get yourself or your child. And actually now with parents, a lot of coaches, when they're recruiting a child, they're also recruiting the parents. So parents need to be very cognizant about the things that they post on social media as well, because you as a parent can get your child unrecruited based on things that you post on social media. It happens all the time. Parents, coaches will say it, just had to cut a student or stop recruiting a student because mom and dad are racist, or because of something mom and dad, or, mom and dad, mom's on social media in a bikini, there are whatever reason. So no, if your child is being recruited, mom and dad, you are being recruited as well. And then the real meaning of student athlete. And my players know and my friends know, I've always told them what the real meaning of student athlete is. The term student athlete was coined in 1964 by Walter Byers, who was the first executive director of the NCAA. Though widely used to discuss anything about collegiate is really a negative one that was created to describe college athletes as students first and athletes second. And if they get injured while playing for the college, the athletic department could opt out of paying their medical bills or any death benefits should the athlete die due to any injury sustained while playing collegiate sports. Legally, using the term student athlete in a court case has gotten NCAA member institutions out of a lot of lawsuits where they were being sued for financial rewards or for medical bills to be paid from injuries sustained while playing in a school jersey. Student athlete is not a positive term. And it means what it says. For colleges, you are a student first and athlete second. When you signed your NLI, you made the choice to come play for the school. So if you get hurt, the school would say, hey, they made the choice to come play for us. That don't mean if they get hurt, we got to assume any responsibility. That's used, in several different ways now to describe any child that plays sport. If they go in school, play sport, they're a student athlete. But historically and initially and whatever, student athlete is a negative term by every meaning of it. Get recruited the right way. Think about the degree programs that you want to major in. This is the list that I gave all of my players last fall. Number one, think about the degree program that you want to major in. Figure out what you want to major in, not your parents, not the coaches. What do you want to major in, or what does your child want to major in? Number two, research all of the colleges that have that degree or those degrees that fit your criteria. Number three, as part of your top 10 list, or that list that we discussed last week with applying to colleges, put those colleges on the list and that you're considering applying to. And then number four, go to the admissions pages for those colleges on the list and notate what they require. The minimum GPA, class rank, types of classes, whether they're regular, pre-AP, AP, dual credit, or dual enrollment, whether they require the SAT or ACT and those scores, and any other supplemental information that must be submitted. And let me explain something. You never saw me discuss or heard me discuss SAT or ACT for the NCAA Eligibility Center. And that's because for the classes of 2021 and 2022, requirements have been done away with, and the NCAA is actually trying to do away with them altogether. So I didn't even put those on the NCAA requirements on the slide earlier, because right now the NCAA is not even requiring either SAT or ACT requirements. Also, go to the degree programs page and find out if there are any additional requirements for applying to that degree program. So like my daughter's going to UTD, but she'll be majoring in engineering at the Eric Johnson College of Engineering. So we had to go to the College of Engineering's website within the UTD site to see if there are any additional admissions requirements. You will want to do that as well for your major or majors that you're looking at. Then go to the athletics pages and get the contact information for the recruiting coach and the head coach if they are two different people for your sport. Then email that recruiting coach or head coach and let them know that you have an interest in playing for their program if they have not already contacted you. If you have not already played in a tournament somewhere, EYBL league somewhere, and the coaches are contacting you and you're not getting any recruiting offers, be in charge of your own recruiting efforts, period, regardless, whatever. It's not up to mom and dad. Mom and dad help. But it's not up to your coaches or your parents. It's not up to your kids' coaches to get your child recruited. That's up to you and your child. So if your child is not already being contacted and recruited, then go to those schools' websites, find those coaches' information. The recruiting coach and the head coach are going to be two different people, and email them and let them know, hey, my name is such and such. I am a senior, or, I'm in school in such and such high school. My class rank is this. My GPA is this. I played, this position. I'm going to be majoring in such and such major, but I'm really interested in playing for your program. They'll respond, but sometimes you have to make that first step. And there are a lot of kids running around here not getting offers because they're mad because the coach didn't get them recruited. That's not the coach's responsibility. Coaches help, because there are some kids that need that help, but that is not their sole goal and sole responsibility to get you or your child recruited. So now we are done, and we actually have 10 minutes left. Does anybody, we had a pretty long presentation tonight, but do we have any questions? Let me go to the chat box. Did you make a racist comment? No, I didn't make a racist comment. How do other schools know that an athlete has signed an NAIA? When they, national letter of intent, a lot of times the kids will athletes, they're going to, and when you make a when you make a commitment and say, I have committed, and a lot of times when the signing day come around, it's going to be publicized on social media. If the student is high profile, the athlete is high profile, it's going to be on the news. So they'll know. But if it's a child that's not a high profile athlete, and they've signed their letter of intent, if another school comes and tries to offer them something, it's up to them to let that school and that coach know, hey, I've already signed my NLI. Thank you for considering me. It's up to that athlete. But like I said, a lot of times the schools will already know depending on who that person is. And Sister Thompson, no, I didn't make a racist comment. Are there any other questions? No, unfortunately, when it comes with racism, unfortunately, in the NCAA, there are issues. And like I said, it took from 1952 to all the way to 1996, 97. What's that? 39, 40, 41, 42 years for the NCAA to care about their athletes. That's where I was going with that. It wasn't the survey. It's at the top, but you may not have got to see it, Sheila. I'll repost it. But if it was not for the NAIA Commission, the NCAA actually did not care about their students. And there have been some high profile instances where some NCAA directors have been caught on camera and recorded saying some really harsh things about African-American athletes. And so, racism is still very much alive and well in the NCAA arena, and I'm trying to bring this information to bring that stuff to light, because that's, a lot of things that are going on, now with the whole social justice with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, they're telling the kids, just shut up and play. Schools, alumni are threatening to pull their funding, their booster donations, if the kids are not playing with COVID, football players are not wanting to play because exposed and contract COVID, and then the boosters are coming along. Well, if you don't play, we will not donate our money. So there's a lot that is still going on with the whole racism, prejudice, and discriminatory things with the NCAA. Like I said, it took over almost 39, 40 some years to get them to acknowledge that, to care about their athletes and even care that they get a degree. So there's a lot that needs to be changed, and I'm not here to advocate for either one. All I care is if I have players that want to go to college and play ball, I'll do everything I can to get them there, but I'm not going to tell them which way to go, which division to play in. If you want to go, get there. I just want my players to go to school and get a degree. I don't care about collegiate sports. Go get a degree. If you can so happen to play sports in addition, that's fine, but your priority should be getting your degree. Are there any other questions for me? I don't know what you're talking about then, Sister Thompson. Don't worry about it. But no, I didn't make a racist statement. I was talking about a racist article that did come about, though. And here are some references. And then next week, I actually have 2 presentations. I have my regular presentation next Thursday night at 7 on goal setting and motivation. And then next Friday, we are doing Hispanic Heritage Month for our TI Communities residents, which I will be doing a presentation on Friday at 3:30 on Zoom with introducing Duolingo, because we're going to be doing a Duolingo challenge for all of the TI Communities kids that I will be in charge of, starting on the 18th all the way through to the end of December, if I remember correctly. And so we're going to be talking about that. If you want to chime in and get in and see what we're doing, that's fine. If not, don't worry about it. But I'll have 2 presentations next week. Then the following week, I will have 2 more. I will have my regular one that Thursday, and then that Friday, we are doing a voter registration kickoff for TI Communities members again, for the whole community, all 30-some communities. And myself, professional name Matthew, we will be doing voter registration presentations. Like, I'll be doing the history of voting and things like that, and I'll have more information on that next week. So for the next 2 weeks, I will have 2 presentations due each week. It's gonna be fun. I love it. But I'm gonna stop sharing, and I have 5 minutes and 28 seconds left. And as always, if you didn't get the link, I'll repost it. I think I just posted that to Sheila a few seconds ago. Let me post it to everyone. If you didn't get the link, Makia, if you didn't get the link, here it is. The community is 800 link. If you're doing the survey now, or write it down, remember it. The community is 800 link. The pillars are going to be education and community building. The topic of today's event was the athletic recruiting process. And then my door number is 707 phase 1. Everybody knows that. But that's the information. And I have 4 minutes and 40-some seconds left. So if nobody has any questions, I am going to end this, and I will see everybody next Thursday. Once again, thank you for coming. Love you all. That's it. It's been an eventful evening. I like doing the night ones. I think the night ones are a little bit better for me. I'm a little bit more lively. I tend to be sleeping in the mornings. But thank everybody for coming. I will see you all next Thursday for goal setting and motivation if you need that help. If not, bring your kids, tell your friends, or whatever, just some additional information. The video will be posted to my YouTube page. I didn't post that because the link was too long. And so if you want it, I'll send you, that in an email or whatever. But I didn't post the YouTube link on there because you can't get a custom link unless you're paying, and I will not. So, Facebook.com/Dr. Bridget King, Dr. Bridget M. King, EDD. You can find me on there, or I'll send you all of my, the link to all of my videos that are posted to now my YouTube website. So without further ado, I will say good evening. I have 3 minutes left. I don't want anything to end. Let me get a picture. Don't move. Don't leave. Remember this time. I keep forgetting to take my picture. I have everybody's picture now. Thank you, and see everybody next week.